State Senator Hirschman, we appreciate you being in attendance. He's going to give a legislative update in this session, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to stay seated if that's all right with you. My knee's sore. I've been out working on the trimming hedges. I told Dick on the way in. And not as young as I used to be.
You can use my walker.
First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me. Of all the communities that I represent, Delphi has been the one that has invited me to come talk to the city council. And although I've talked to others, it's been years since anybody else has asked. So thank you for doing so. Mayor, you can take that jacket off if you want to. Second of all, I want to say thank you for your service. You know, this is a labor of love, I know, for all of you. You're serving the community. It's not very glamorous. A lot of times people only contact you when they're good and bad. And it's nice to just know that you are appreciated, and what you're doing is the foundation of what makes Delphi a better place. And I was just reading about some of the economic development activities in Carroll County over the last year. And that is tribute to some of the good things you've done to lay the groundwork for it as a city and as a county. And also, obviously, the community has been touched by tragedy as well. And even in that tragedy, the spirit of community that's come together is impressive. That's what small town America is all about. And you folks are the ones who are the gatekeepers for making sure that Delphi not only maintains the character of what it is, but that it prepares to move into the future as well. So thank you. You make my job pretty easy most of the time. Some of you who probably may follow me on Facebook know that I make quite a bit of fun of Illinois. And I say, you know, because it's fun and it's easy, but it's also educational insofar as the different choices that are made in leadership have a demonstrable impact on governmental outcomes. And Indiana as a whole is in a pretty good place. I'll have to refer to some windows here to try to get it right, but our unemployment rate is 3.6%. It is the lowest in the Midwest. It has been continually trending down. A lot of related things happen that are very good because, in part, that our unemployment is so low, there's a demand for workers, and Indiana had the 7th fastest growing personal incomes in America last year. Well, you've probably heard some discussion that we're down in the mid-30s in terms of personal income as compared to the rest of the nation. So our trend is very strong. We are lower than the national average. However, there's something that isn't discussed a lot, and that is our cost of living. The numbers recently came out, and Indiana has the 2nd lowest cost of living in the United States. Part of that is a result of good government at both the state and the local level in terms of not overspending, not overtaxing. But there are a lot of components that factor into it as well. As a result of some of the positive things that we had going for us in terms of income, in terms of economic development, our trend line for investment has also been very strong as well. A number of years ago, we tried to break down those individual elements that lead towards growth. First on the list is a competitive tax and regulatory environment. And we have made tremendous strides in that respect. We have the best tax and business climate in the Midwest, number 8 in the nation, according to the Tax Foundation, which is a nonpartisan foundation, been doing this since 1934. We are ahead of economic powerhouses like Texas. And the only states that are ahead of us typically are those that have significant mineral resources, oil, natural gas, things like that. So they have a source of additional income that we don't have, although for them right now, a lot of them are in horrible straits because of the fall in energy prices has really affected their bottom line. The other elements that were important to us were workforce quality, infrastructure, quality of life. Infrastructure, can mean a number of things. Typically, you talk about roads, bridges, can also be railroads. Now there's a lot of discussion about water infrastructure in the state as well. So if we moved into a competitive tax and business climate, you won't be too surprised to see what the General Assembly is working on where we move to those other elements. Workforce, infrastructure, quality of life. Infrastructure, House Bill 1002 passed with actually some very strong bipartisan support. We have been looking at this, a lot of people don't know that we have. For over 2 years, I was on the Blue Ribbon Task Force last summer. We had hearings all summer long, trying to learn from the successes and failures of other states. We wanted to ensure that we had a transportation investment solution that took care of us for the long term. It wasn't just a Band-Aid. That asked for as little additional money from people as possible, and did so as fairly as possible, so that we were not only asking for it from our citizens, but that we were also finding ways to collect revenue from those people who travel our highways but may not live here. And that's why you saw such a combination of fees that came through rather than just one. Because we kept each one as low as possible, but it was very broadly based. So we're projecting it'll cost the average driver $5 to $6 a month in the state. Not a big number. For some, those who drive more, it'll be a little more. But it's going to inject, when it's fully ramped up, and we did phase it in over a little bit of period of time, $1.2 billion into our transportation system, including $350 million a year for local government. For you, that means more money into the motor vehicle, MVH fund, more money in local roads and streets. We also did something to recognize the needs of rural Indiana. For those communities that you are familiar with, the community called crossings grants that were a 50-50 match last year. You got a significant chunk of money from Senate Bill 67, which I authored, and then you could apply for the grants. For those communities with less than 10,000 population, it's not going to be 75-25, so you'll only be asked to come up with a quarter of the match rather than half, which ought to allow you to leverage more money within your own community. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of orange cones out there, and you're going to see them for a long, long time, which is the downside to rebuilding, but it's been a long time coming. All the money is going to go into roads. Some people have asked me that. They see the federal government and how they manipulate money. Indiana's got a good track record in that. I actually was very proud, surprised, frankly, but very proud. U.S. News and World Report ranked state governments for efficiency and ranked Indiana #1 in the nation in terms of efficiency of our state government. We try to come to you, tell you exactly what we're doing and why, and try to spend as little of your money as possible for the things you want. The next element was workforce quality. We have recognized in recent years that there's been not a lack of focus, but not enough focus on career and technical education. Not everybody is interested in a 4-year college degree, but there is a tremendous demand for workers out there with good vocational skills, and it's an honorable thing. And so we are trying to work with both Ivy Tech and with vocational and career training at high school level to give kids not only ways to identify what their interests are, but to help them to receive certifications and other things, so that we put more money into voc-ed. And I think you're going to see a positive outcome from that. Indiana is the most manufacturing dependent state in the nation. We need to look at those highly skilled folks and help them achieve their full potential. And a lot of that can be some very good paying jobs, which helps our personal incomes as well, which means more tax revenue for the city of Delphi. Last issue is quality of life. That's a harder thing to pin down, because what people in Delphi want for their quality of life may not be exactly the same thing that people in Indianapolis want for their quality of life. And so that we tend to leave that more towards local decisions, but we have tried to support things like libraries and the arts and parks and the DNR and so forth, so that there is a recognition that there's a role for government to make modest investments in those kind of things and leave a lot of decision making at the local level. I'll wrap up with this because I want time for your questions, but just to give you an idea, I think it's important to point this out because I know you folks get along pretty well. We get along pretty well down at the state. It's very different from the federal government. A lot of times people view us all through one giant prism. There were 1,261 bills introduced in the General Assembly, 580 in the Senate, 681 in the House. We passed 272, so we winnowed them down to 22% of those introduced bills were passed. And one of the reasons I point that out is because every year somebody, anybody can introduce a bill on anything. And there were some fairly dumb ones introduced, and they didn't make it through the process. Those are the ones you read about. I saw there was one where you couldn't ride with your dog on your lap. I didn't know that was a big problem. That bill did not get a hearing, but of course it got headlines nonetheless. Of those 272 bills that passed, 96% received bipartisan support. Means at least one Republican, one Democrat voted for them. 57% were unanimous. Now, think about that in terms of the fact we do have Republican supermajorities in both House and Senate and Republican governor. There was a discussion when these happened that the Republicans didn't have to get along with the minority party because they had such overwhelming control. It's not the way we operate. If we didn't cooperate and collaborate on things, we wouldn't have 57% of our bills passing unanimously. It means everybody's had an opportunity to weigh in and find an outcome to their satisfaction. And I think that's in the best of Hoosier traditions, and I think that's something we can be proud of as well. As for myself, you may know that I authored a balanced budget amendment in the U.S. Constitution. Many of the folks thought Indiana had a balanced budget requirement. Actually, it didn't. The balanced budget requirement in our Constitution was passed after the Wabash and Erie Canal debacle, and it limited capital debt, that is for construction. And the state found a way around that a long, long time ago. It specifically allows for casual deficits in revenue. What's a casual deficit? Anything the legislature says it is. So that means we could spend more money than we took in, even though we haven't in a number of years. I went and did a survey of all the other states that had balanced budget requirements, which is the vast majority of them. Ironically enough, Illinois has one, and they have $250 billion worth of pension debt right now. The reason Illinois got around its balanced budget requirement is because they allow themselves to count debt as revenue. So if you borrow money, it's considered income. How's that working out for you? So what I did was look at the successes and failures in other states and try and put together language that I believe is the strongest balanced budget requirement in the United States. That ensures that when I'm long gone, that Indiana will continue to exert the fiscal discipline that has given us the opportunity to make a lot of investments right now. We've got a AAA credit rating. We were just recognized for having the 6th lowest public debt in America. That's a pretty healthy place to be. So I'm not going to go through all those 272 bills that were passed. I'd be happy to take any questions. Obviously, we did a lot of different things, but please let me know what's on your mind. All right, thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Senator. Council, do we have any questions for the Senator?
What's your feeling on the opioid epidemic we have now, the drugs? I mean, I understand a lot of employers are having trouble with employees.
I've heard that. I have never seen anything like it in my lifetime. And when I was in high school, I was in Kankakee Valley from Wheatfield, rural community. If somebody had marijuana, it was scandalous.
Yeah.
And every year I try and do ride-alongs with my various police departments, and just a few years ago, probably about 3 years, they started telling me about heroin in all the rural high schools. That was, nobody would have considered heroin in a community like Delphi. But it's here. And when I rode with the state police last summer, I asked them what their biggest concerns were, and they said, heroin, because it is the most pervasive drug in the community and it is the hardest for us to find, easily concealed. And if you think about the impact on society in terms of broken families, broken lives, crime associated with it, medical costs, then we talk needle exchanges, which I'm not a big fan of, but we also had an epidemic in AIDS, HIV, and hepatitis C. Those folks are going to end up on Medicaid in the hospital, and it costs about $80,000 to treat someone for hepatitis C. At one point, Scott County had an outbreak that was at a greater rate per capita than any of our major cities. And so I think the discussions I've had with the governor, we do believe in a holistic approach. We have to look at source reduction, punishing those who sell drugs, but we also have to look at trying to help those who are caught in the grips of an addiction. If there's a way, if they're willing, if there's a way to break that cycle, we're not only saving their lives, we're potentially saving their families' lives, and we're reducing the overall cost to society as a whole. We're in new territory in that respect, because this isn't something we focused on a lot in the past. We haven't had to. So Tippecanoe County is one of 2 pilot counties in the state on drug courts and associated treatment. I worked with the author of that bill to put them in. If we can make something work there, maybe we can make it work other places. But it is a very serious issue, and I don't have all the answers there.
I don't know that anybody does, that's so scary. You know?
It is.
Could you give a general definition of what you used as a term of quality of life? Can you give a general, you gave examples,
Sure.
Can you give a general definition?
I think it's a very broad term, because it is whatever people value within their community and makes people want to move there and stay there. Somebody talked to me years ago about Indianapolis and the problems it was having. They said, we want people to move back downtown. And I said, well, I can break it down for you. People need good schools, safe streets, and a grocery store. Because if you look at those places, I heard on the radio this afternoon, they were talking about food deserts. Well, I didn't have a fancy term for it. But if you can't buy the staples of life, if your kids are getting a bad education and you're scared to go out on the street, you're not going to live there for very long. Once you deal with those basics, there are lots of other things that people want, whether it's arts and culture, whether it's land, whether it's someplace to put their garden, whether they want a front porch kind of community where they can talk to their neighbors, or the kind of community where they don't have to talk to their neighbors. Different for everybody.
Right.
But you have to figure out what you want to put Delphi on the map, and where you're going to differentiate yourself from some of those other communities. I think you're doing it, frankly, but maybe that helps.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Wanting to move there and live there, that helps with the definition, yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Any further questions for the senator? Mike, we open up to public.
Yeah, and let me just say this. This doesn't have to be a one-time thing. Anytime you folks, Shane contacts me every so often when he sees the state doing something questionable. How's that? Is that good?
Trying to throw some support behind it.
Absolutely. No, we've had a fantastic dialogue on issues, very thoughtful about some of these issues. Stop and make you think. And always happy to hear from any of you folks. If you've got any questions or concerns, just give me a call.
I never thought of that food desert thing, but, Burlington only has a Dollar General, and it does stop them, Oh, really? No, we do need, every community does need those things.
Do we have any questions from the public? Mr. Bradshaw?
I'd like to thank Senator Hirschman because he's been one of the most stellar members of the legislature to come to our third house sections and our luncheons and things like that. He's always got a lot of good things to say, and we're very fortunate because he is pretty high up in the Republican power grab down in Indianapolis, and so we appreciate what he does. And remember, he's just a good old boy. He's from Buck Creek, Indiana. He's a farmer. So he knows kind of how we are and how we live, and we appreciate that, and I want you to know that.
Thanks, Dick. I appreciate that. See, now I got to scoop his sidewalk all over long. That's the.
There you go.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's all right, Brent, it's correct.
If there's no further questions, thank you, Senator, for coming today. We appreciate you making the trip over from Buck Creek.
Happy to do so, thanks. I'll let you folks work. I gotta go let my dogs out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to reading minutes and approval. You've been given the May 1st, minutes from the May 1st City Council meeting. Are there any additions, subtractions, deletions, or amendments to be made to these minutes?
I move that the minutes of the May 1st meeting be approved as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the May 1st regular meeting as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. At this point, do we have any additions to be made to the agenda before we move to department head reports? Hearing none, we'll move on to department head reports. You should have received reports from the mayor, board of public works and safety minutes, airport minutes, reports from the police department, minutes from the fire department. Same thing that you guys get every month. We've also been presented with 2 reports from Councilman Seward, one from the area planning commission and one regarding town hall style meetings. Do you have any questions for our department heads or mayor regarding, I've been trying to send out weekly mayor's reports so that you guys don't have to read a bunch of documents 3 days before the city council meeting.
In the community center meeting, down next to the last paragraph, the signage, was that to be completed by the school by May 24th or June 24th?
I picked it up on the last day of school,
Okay,
and I found out it was the last day of school.
Did I put June?
yes, but,
Okay, my apologies. Yeah, wait, that's a drafted, so I'll go through and amend any changes at the next.
I wasn't worried about the error, I just wanted to make
Yes,
sure
ma'am.
that you didn't get it picked up, so that's good.
But we're gonna adjust it.
I think I'm going to make modifications to it.
Okay.
I have a question. We're getting close to budget time, and I know that we used to get, or well, I remember seeing them come in the past, not since I've been here, but before that. How difficult would it be to, Steve, how difficult would it be to see maybe a report that shows how much, how many miles you traveled and gas you used and warning tickets and regular tickets that you just distributed that month before? How hard would that be?
Sure, we can do that.
Okay. I'd like to see it anyway. I don't know about anybody else, but I think it would help.
Sure.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the department heads? Councilman Seward, do you have anything you want to add to your written report?
No, I was going to ask you at some point what your status on the your area plan commission and your board of zoning appeals appointment, what the status of that is.
I still need to appoint people to vote. I reached out to another individual last week who doesn't, they informed me they don't have the time, so it's still a work in progress. I've been intending to do it for going on my 6th month now, and I haven't got to, so it's something I know I need to get on.
I worry about our representation not being represented, and I've sent 4 or 5 people to you. I don't know if they haven't showed up or what, but I've encouraged people to go in and talk to you about the area plan anyway.
Okay.
They may not have shown up, I don't know.
Do we have any further questions for department heads?
I guess this one is for Jake as well. When you facilitated commercial property tours for an agricultural retail development, you don't want to comment on that, or would you? Is it sensitive? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any word on Dollar General?
We've got, I know the Board of Public Works and Safety approved their plans for how they're going to enter off Franklin Street. They've gone before the Drainage Board, I believe. So I think in terms of everything they've got to get set up, they should be pretty much there. I don't know in terms of, we haven't got construction schedules or anything.
Well, they talked like it was gonna be like that.
They wanted that
Yeah.
emergency,
Yeah, here we are, what, 6, 7 months later, and we're still looking at weeds.
Typical, yeah.
Yeah.
any further questions for department heads? Councilman Seward, anything to add to your submission? All right, we'll move next. It's a pretty short meeting. New business, we have President McKeon from the Greater Delphi Chamber of Commerce requesting a waiver of garage sale permit fees of $1 during Old Settlers. You kind of want to talk about what you guys want to do at that time?
Well, we're kind of spearheading that with one of the other organizations, Main Street Association as well, letting them take a hold of the garage selling of that a little bit. So far, we haven't had too many, lines of communication with them about what's going to go on. We just know that we want to run it together and open it up, and that was why we're here.
Do you have any questions for President McKeon? Do we have any discussion about waiving those permit fees for those 9 through 12?
It's the 9th through the 12th. Yes, the dates are August 9th through the
For
12th.
those 4 days?
I would move that we grant the waiver for the garage sale permits for August 9th through 12th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive garage sale permit fees from August 9th through August 12th. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. I do have one thing, I just typed it up today, and it's something that's a work in progress. Since Senator Hirschman was here talking about House Bill 1002, Clerk Treasurer Aldridge and I went up to LaPorte last week, Wednesday, and heard about the community crossing grants this year. The grant application period opened today. It closes July 14th. They're going to be announcing awards late August is their intentions at this time. What you got in front of you, and I want to make it very clear that this is a draft, it's subject to change. There's a lot of things that are still unknown, but this is a preliminary memorandum on right now where the numbers come back from the pavement asset management plan, potential projects for the to submit for this community crossings grant. My intention would be to apply for the maximum of $1 million is what NDOT, the maximum amount, which means our match would be $333,300.33. Those funds, and I've got a list of where we anticipate some funds coming back. As you know, we got the relinquishment of $1.25 million from NDOT for East Main, as well as that lower distribution of $341,772 last year. After we do all the community crossings projects this year, subject to possibly some change orders, as East Main Street isn't done yet, they're running into some limestone. Armory Road's not done yet, there may be some minor change orders that we have on that. But currently it's anticipated that after those projects are done, we'd have $584,000, almost $500, $584,500 between that relinquishment fund. Part of that we transferred into rainy day, so I'm counting that as well as that lower distribution. Right now, it also looks like we could encumber close to $57,000 out of this year's paving and resurfacing budget, but as well as possibly storm engineering and curb, but we've got a West Monroe Street project that we still need to get estimates for, so that could lower those numbers. My proposal here today, and it's just for you guys to look at, we should be talking about this here again, maybe late June or July, would be whatever we have left at the end of this year between Aaron's paving and resurfacing, curb and sidewalk, storm sewer budgets, encumbering that to act as our match, and then whatever else we don't have out of that $333,000 we take from either that relinquishment or that lower distribution. Our pavement asset management plan showed $481,000 worth of work needing done next year. And that's based off engineers' estimates. They were a little high on microsurfacing and crack sealing. They were a little low on mill and overlay and just regular overlays. But I think this would put a huge dent in our pavement asset management plan. Would push us forward pretty far in getting a lot of our streets up to a level where we can maintain them for the years to come. So, if you guys have any input, not right now, you guys need time to review this, but any input, I can show you a payment asset management plan where I got some of these numbers, and then we can go from there.
Well, it seemed like on that highway relinquishment, didn't we specify, I mean, it would be only for roads?
Well, and that's something I'll probably have to bring up to the council. We have an ordinance that states East Main Street relinquishment can only go towards East Main Street. Since we're gonna have money left over in that project, I'm gonna have to come back and ask for an amendment of that ordinance when we get closer to the funding side of things. And Clerk Treasurer and Aldrich and I need to figure out the best way, because we've got 4 different funds open from different distributions to try to just get those, funnel those into one fund that can be used for transportation purposes.
Yeah.
Well, it could be a good thing, certainly.
All right, we'll move next to City Council comments and requests. Council President Pro Tem Pearson.
Nothing.
All right. Councilman Trigger.
Heard anything about the railroad tracks on Union Street?
Ms. Lowe from the comment. Called me today. I can't, Aaron, I don't know if you talked to the track supervisor last or 5 years. Last I heard, it was going to be end of May from the track supervisor. I don't know if
I called him
2020.
a week and a half ago in regards to something else, and I questioned him on it, and he indicated to me that it would be closer to the end of this month, because they were waiting on parts.
People just ask, I don't care if it stops the traffic.
Wilson Street.
Great for us.
Wilson Street,
Keeps that traffic down.
Wilson Street's supposed to be down for 2 days.
It should be open tomorrow.
I say probably a week, and we got notice of that Friday.
I noticed they're working on the track all the way to Lafayette, you know, replacing tires and everything. We got about 50 crews out there. So. Okay, I just wanted to know, because people ask me.
Well, the thing that concerns me is if we are not showing them that we are interested in that crossing being reopened, my fear is they're gonna look at that and say, well, they really haven't indicated that they really want it back open or whatever, so we'll just close it.
I think Superintendent Lyons and I have been on top of it.
Yeah, the mayor's been down there, and I went down there last week when he was down there with him. We were talking about
Well,
that.
just so it's expressed, because there's some things either legally or in their procedures that once they go a certain length of time and nobody says anything or does anything, and I know you've had contact with them, so, but I don't know if it's the correct contact as far as what they require. I'd hate to see us lose that intersection. So that's the only thing I'm bringing.
We've been on top of them, and
Good.
if Wilson Street goes to Wednesday, we'll contact either them or Road Safe. Road Safe